Hello, my name is Gary Gomes. I've had this channel running for a while. Uh, I'd like to take an opportunity to, we will be going to a podcasting service very soon. I apologize for not getting it set up earlier. It's just been a lot going on. But I would like to talk to you about the upcoming eclipse on June 21st, and there'll be a lunar eclipse on July the 6th or thereabouts. So I'd like to talk about these and also talk about certain things happening astrologically between now and July 6th. So without further ado, let me share my screen with you. And this is really the only way I can get it because apparently I can't stream live right now. So let's go to June 26th or June 21st, excuse me. And so you have in this chart, I don't have the entire chart scaled. Um, and let me get the right chart up. Excuse me. And I have so I have a June 21st. June 20th. So I'm just going to put it over Washington D.C. And this one again is not really like the lunar eclipse a couple of weeks ago. This one really isn't magnificently horrible. Um, as a matter of fact, let's go to June 21st. As you can see, the sun and the moon are quite on top of each other. That's an odd thing about. So I usually like to treat the actual eclipses like they're Rahu Ketu events. Better that way. Yeah. This is the chart on June 21st for Washington, D.C. I just pick various locations at random, not because I have a bias in favor of the United States. It's just because essentially you can pick any place in the world as the starting point and still end up with the same information. So from this chart we have, this would be for 12 noon. We have Leo rising, the sun, moon, Rahu, and a retrograde Mercury are in the 11th house. We also have Ketu in the 5th house, Jupiter and Saturn retrograde in the sixth house, and Mars in the 8th, aspect in the Sun, Moon, Mars, that entire cluster in the 11th house. And Venus is retrograde fairly strong though in its own sign. And if you look at the shot ball points on here, the strongest planet appears to be Saturn. Second strongest appears to be, actually it looks like Saturn's. Yeah, Saturn's the strongest, second strongest is Mars, third strongest is the Sun. So it looks like it's going to be a kind of a fiery eclipse. But the one thing I would point out to you is we have, so there should be some more protests, some more violence. Disease issues, I'm really not seeing that big an issue with. And I'll explain why. There have been reports of COVID resurgences um, in across the world and across the country. So that's, I'm not ignoring that. But I think what's happening, what you're seeing is essentially Jupiter's very weak in this chart. And there's something else I'm going to point out about Jupiter in this chart. But it's essentially on the borderline between the two signs, between Capricorn and Sagittarius. That's actually somewhat good because around July 1st, Jupiter goes back into Sagittarius. It'll be unobstructed or uninfluenced by other planets, um, which was a problem for it in through most of 2019. So Jupiter was in the sign, and it was a really good placement. But basically, it has Saturn to contend with. It had Mars around December 26th. It had Mars, um, not Mars, excuse me. It had Venus. It had an entire cluster of planets to contend with. Mars didn't come until a little bit later on. And essentially, when that happens, whenever you have a cluster, it's essentially what I call a planetary pileup. Whenever you have a cluster of planets in a sign, it'll have a deleterious effect. But this should this particular eclipse should present a kind of a turning point, and I'll tell you why. And it's not really obvious unless you use true lunar nodes. Um, some of us prefer mean lunar nodes, and the mean lunar nodes are essentially what are used by traditional Indian astrologers. But true lunar nodes last for only a couple of days, and they do present sort of turning points in charts. So things could get a lot worse, things could get a lot better, but big events usually happen around true lunar nodes, and especially when they're stationary direct. So you see Rahu is not, so the underlying sign is indication of a retrograde. Rahu would normally be retrograde, would normally be underlined, so would Ketu on this particular day, but it's not. It's stationary direct. It's not moving backwards or forwards. Now, true lunar nodes, and we're honest about it, true lunar nodes were created in the 20th century. They didn't exist before that. They were mainly invented to give a more accurate or more consistent timing of eclipses than the means did. So, or a more consistent matchup with eclipses than the mean nodes did. So what that means for this particular sign is there'll be really large events both in media, in government, and also in public view. So with what's happening here, we do have, I'm going to say this deliberately, we will have the media essentially trying to stir up a panic. Um, I don't think it's intentional. I don't think they're doing it because they want to be nasty or difficult. But there will be a lot of reports about COVID-19 expansions and essentially not really taking into account what will happen just a few short days later, that essentially COVID cases will drop or or flatten out again in June because of Jupiter's entry into Sagittarius. The other thing that'll happen is there will be, I mean, there are lawsuits coming before the media presenters right now. That'll probably increase. There'll be very heated campaign rhetoric around this time, which is not at all surprising since it's an election year. And you will see a lot of attempts to besmirch both candidates around this time. So essentially a lot of crises in both camps around this time. The Venus retrograde is actually helpful. The Saturn Jupiter retrograde is actually helpful in terms of calming people down. It is confusing for people because they're going to start to get very, very scared again about COVID-19 and very, very panicky about it. But believe me, it's only a temporary issue. It's only a temporary concern. You will see more demonstrations and more, I would say, more violence uh, in the cities because of the Mars aspect on the sun, which tends to bring it out. Now, keep in mind, I'm not either um, I'm not taking sides for the protesters. The problem with this pattern is if it continues for too long, and it looks like it'll continue throughout July, is people will start to get a little bit afraid of it. So if people are protesting and it's not hurting anybody or it's not scaring the general public, that's the moon over here, it'll go fine. If it is scaring them, it'll be very difficult. Certain countries, like the United States, has a Sagittarius rising. A lot of countries have, and a lot of European countries have a lot of planets in Virgo and um, and um, Pisces, from what I recall from my analyses of other countries. So you'll see a lot of upheavals, a lot of um, violence in those particular countries. Um, there's also some threat to countries with Gemini risings. So that would be, from what I've seen, Syria, Iraq, and Turkey will have some potential for violence during this eclipse. But it's not going to all concentrate on June 21st. It'll be spread out over about 2 weeks before and 2 weeks after. And some astrologers say it's going to last, but I would give the most would last about around 3 months. And if we switch over, let's look at the layout page. And I want to look at the astral mapping for this eclipse. All right, so you can sort of see that. So the astral mapping, there is nothing really in Massachusetts. That's where I am. There's a line going through Maine, a Mars line going through Maine, and going through Brazil and northern South America and Argentina. So there's potential for violence there. There's a Saturn line going through, a Saturn and a Jupiter line going through these sections right here, which indicates some potentials for earthquake. Again, we're talking about California, but not as bad as we recently encountered. Venus lines tend to be interesting because they tend to cause a lot of concern for demonstrations and social upheaval. So Venus lines, especially Venus is retrograde. So there'll be protests around money in the Midwest, and maybe some more fear about disease breaking out here. This looks to be the most dangerous part, and we know Florida's in danger, but I'm expecting Arizona to calm down by then, disease-wise. Um, in terms of the countries in the Western Hemisphere, which will really be hit strongly, will be, it looks to me like Brazil, um, Venezuela, and Argentina. Those look like the countries that are really in for a tough time. But Mercury, the media is going to go nuts in Brazil, and the public will be very panicked in Brazil. If we go over to the Eastern Hemisphere, there's not much happening in Europe. So Europe seems to be pretty much under control right now. So despite what I said about the charts, there aren't a lot of planetary lines influencing Brazil. And there's a Venus line. So again, we're going to have social protests in Italy, North Africa, all the way down to tiny Gabon. And if you go up all the way through Russia as well, and if you go over here, um, you see there are some, I have to look carefully at this. 1 second, folks. There's a Venus line running through west, um, the region between China and India. And there's a Jupiter and a Saturn line running roughly through western India, which still to me looks like a hot spot. The only spot that's really difficult in the Middle East, to me, looks like we have a descendant line of the sun, the moon, and what's that third planet? I can't see it. And Rahu, excuse me. going through is roughly Iran over here, Iran and Iraq and Syria. So these regions look to be troubled. We kind of already knew they were. Japan has a Jupiter line next to it. Australia has a Jupiter line, but far far eastern Australia looks like it's going to be damaged a little bit, maybe earthquake issues. And also the Philippines um, and Indonesia are going to have some problems. Among the general population, there'll probably be some uh, civil unrest in Indonesia, it looks like to me. Also in China, right here. China entered the middle of the former Soviet Union, and even a little bit into Borneo and down into Australia. So if we go back to the birth chart, let's go back to the actual chart for the week or for the day. People who will be most strongly affected by this particular eclipse will be um, people with Leo rising, but again, it'll also give them great opportunities. It'll give them opportunities to break out of ruts they've been in. So that's one of the unknown factors about eclipses. They tend to reveal the truth. They tend to present opportunities to people. So that's actually a good thing. There'll be some good career news for Leo, but let's start with Aries. Aries will have financial gains, increased energy and ambition, and also some unexpected career obstacles, but not for very long. A lot of the career obstacles will disappear by the end of June. And a lot of career activity and maybe some minor relationship problems for Aries. That'd be Sun, Moon, or Rising. And we're talking about Vedic Aries, not Western Aries. Taurus looks fairly good, and Taurus looks good for financial success and financial gains, although it will have some minor problems with relationship partners. Gemini looks like it'll get a lot of fame, a lot of recognition, a lot of responsibility, though, during this period. Some difficulty or detachment from relationship partners, unfortunately, but also some financial gains and also some good career success at that time over the next month and a half. The next sign I want to look at is Cancer. Cancer is going to have good career success, new friends and famous friends. It'll also have Mercury's also in the 11th house, so it should give us some gains along with Leo. Leo should get a lot of financial gains during this period. So Leo will have good career success, new friends, maybe even new relationship partners around this time, before July 7th. Virgo has problems with relationship partners. Relationship partners will be angry or difficult to deal with, but overall the luck and the fame will be good for the sun. But there will be some minor problems with children. Libra looks to be, again, courageous, willing to take chances, but a lot of responsibilities at home and a lot of arguments at home. But overall, good luck. Scorpio has good relationship possibilities. Relationships from the past can show up good energy, but they'll also be a little bit short-tempered, a little difficult to deal with. Sagittarius looks fairly good. It'll have Jupiter entering the sign in July, and throughout the next 4 to 5 months, Sagittarius, at least in the Vedic chart, will have good luck. Good luck and good financial success, and although some minor health issues. Jupiter and Saturn sit in Capricorn right now. This is a high status placement for this planet, and it will bring financial success and wealth in. and also fulfillment of ambitions and the opportunity to travel, and also love affairs. And also overcoming enemies and obstacles. Aquarius, the Lord of Aquarius is placed in the fourth house. It's in its own sign, so again, romantic involvements from the past, just a general feeling of contentment, although they will be kind of harsh, um, kind of ill-tempered for a while, but they will have basically good luck with children and basically good luck with financial gains. Pisces has Mars in the first house, so this planet's going to be very energetic. It's not a good placement for long-term relationships, and they'll probably have to do some more educational activity, but basically this is a good placement for it. And they'll also have some financial gains through hard work, but also some career changes. So the chart doesn't look bad, especially between now and June 6th. The next eclipse is going to be a lunar eclipse. Those to me aren't as significant. This lunar eclipse will occur in the same sign as the solar eclipse is occurring. So essentially it'll do a lot of the same things. It'll just close out the cycle of activities and changes, especially for Leos. But basically I'm not seeing a lot of major catastrophes for anyone over the next few months. The major problem over the next few months is really going to be civil unrest. And I'm saying civil unrest connected with protests in particular, but it could be other things as well, because you may have other countries that have violence break out. So that's going to be really the big challenge over the summer. Probably not anything like what we've seen for quite a while, because it'll be continuous. A lot of the unrest we've seen before have been rather um, isolated, but this will last for about 2.5 months, unfortunately. Okay, that's it for me for now. I will try to start being back on more regularly. It's been a challenge over the past couple of months due to factors in my chart, and we'll see you soon. All right, namaste.